Ryan Borges, and our project is called Honey Packet.
So a problem that happens a lot, especially in everyday life, is our download speed is really slow when a lot of people are on our network, and especially when you're going, like having a Skype call with somebody in Italy or something, like the quality you can't maintain a really, really high quality Skype call or really anything. And that is mainly due to packet loss, which I will explain what a packet is.
And so what we plan to do is create, combine the signaling mechanism of a B with that of a computer algorithm to signal when certain channels are open to send packets without queuing up. And so we did research on B communication. And so at first we decided to see how B's avoid collision. And so they do that by using optic flow. Now, optic flow works a lot like how we are on the train. They experience life as stationary and everything moves around them. So when one eye speeds up suddenly for no reason, they know that an obstacle is coming its way and they move out of the way. We didn't really see this being incorporated into our design, so we moved on to signaling and how they get from point A to point B as quickly as possible. Now, they communicate by means of dance, and specifically the waggle dance. And what this is it's a series of spins within a beat. When it finds a fast route to get to the flower, it spins accordingly. So one spin is the shortest, and 5 spins is the longest. And they just do this constantly to find the quickest route and communicate it to other bees.
So now we know what a packet is. So packets are little tiny bits of data. And so when I send a file to some other person or I download a file is broken down into smaller packets that are sent basically from that place to where I am. And so it has to go through all of these essentially pipes, if you will, to come to me. And so what happens is that packet loss occurs when 2 different people, they say, hey, I want to download this file. And so they both send a request to where they want to download the file, and packets are sent to both of them, but packets can actually collide. And when packets collide, they just drop dead pretty much, and then you have to send another request back to the place where you want to download it, and it's having to repeat. So download speed slow down, and eventually what happens is that, like I gave the example of Skype calls earlier, Skype quality decreases a lot. So our idea was that we'd like to, so another thing that happens is that packets need to queue at almost each stage or stop, because you don't want to have only 5 packets when you need 15 at the endpoint. So there's stops that happen occasionally throughout the transfer of data, and so you have to have a queue at each stop. And once a queue fills up, the packets that would normally fill into the queue just disappear, and then more packets are sent, and then you have to essentially wait until that queue is open. But so our idea was that instead of possibly sending it to the fastest route, you send it to a separate route that theoretically might be slower if there was no queues at all, but you're sending it to a queue that isn't full rather than a queue that is, and you're having to resend data, if that makes sense. And so that is our methodology, and we would need to create an algorithm to put that in effect.
And so we plan to market this to major internet service providers, ISPs, that can potentially speed up download speeds and minimize packet loss. So that would include companies like Time Warner, Comcast, Verizon, and AT&T. And then these are our citations.
My question is, first of all, you plan on using a swarm intelligence using bees. That's all you're going to create. Number 2 is that you plan on using a shortest path algorithm, possibly Euclidean, which is not exactly the fastest version. The problem where it really comes in is you can merge those two, but if you plan on using it in packets, the packets don't have any computational power. How do you plan on going around that?
So the ISP will essentially, when I send a request to say, I want to download a file from you, it has to go through a certain way in order for me to find it. Then, once you have, then the ISP basically finds the fastest route that is not basically that's open, that is fully open, rather than the packets aren't doing the thinking. The ISP is doing essentially a scan saying, this is the fastest route.
The other issue with that though is that you have an ISP, you have the client. However, in between them is a system of routers which actually do the routing. So the server, the ISP, has absolutely no power as to which direction it's going. It just sends it to a router, which then decides which direction it goes. So would you plan on actually doing it to a router as well, or just specifically the ISP?
Both.
Okay.
I'm really concerned like data capture, because if I were a hacker, right, I want to capture your packet. If my setup happens to be the fastest way from their ISP to me, then and I have control like a man-in-the-middle attack, I have control of data coming in and out. Technically, you're helping me out by giving me faster download speeds to everything you're sending me straight shots because of cookies. The very security protocols you get input to get around that. Otherwise, it's a hacker field day
Yeah, exactly.
because it's like free data all the time at the fastest speeds.
That's something that I guess we would need to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so cyber security, like a firewall thing to block it maybe to help
That's true.
secure the packets.
Thanks.
Good thought. Last question.
I just wanted to add the point that it's not like packets are sent directly to a source and not just like chain linked to one person. They're actually split up from the origin and sent all around the network anyways. So it's like that's just how the networking works. There's no way to like find the fastest route. It already does that.
Okay, next. So what's the